Well, hello, everybody. Hello, world. It's time to rise and shine and give the Lord the glory and honor due his name. It is the day he has made, and we'll rejoice and be glad in it. Good morning to all of you. Hello. It's a great day to tell the Lord thank you for another day. In spite of the pain perhaps you're dealing with, the sufferings and frustrations and all that you may be dealing with right now, God is still good. And I'm a living testimony. I make it my practice every day to give the Lord the praise and honor due unto his name. It's built in. It's a fact. All right. Give you all an opportunity to come in. We're going to get started here very shortly. As always, we're grateful to be able to share and empower the listeners, and many of you do share, and I appreciate you. And many of you don't share. I still appreciate you, but I wish you would share. I appreciate you coming on and being a part of what we're doing here. All right. Again, it's a great day. Let's just go ahead and get started. As I close out steps to cultivating healthy and thriving relationships, I bought a book, and let me just give you sort of a precursor of my lesson. And the title of the book was Hard Sayings by the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul was noted to be an individual that was direct. He was obviously very transparent about his weaknesses, but he was emphatic and passionate about the Word of God, of course, and his apostleship and the mantle on his life. So the writer of the book, the title is The Hard Sayings of Paul. And Jesus was another example. Jesus was very emphatic about what he had to say, who he said it to. He called the Pharisees vipers and, you know, various adjectives he would describe, and told Peter, "Get behind me, Satan." Peter was obviously he was whirling in his perspective of Jesus, particularly going to the cross. And he said, "Get behind me, Satan." It didn't call Peter Satan himself, but the very spirit of the devil, basically what he was trying to say. So I say this to say that some things have to be said. In order for us to grow and to get better, some things have to be said and dealt with. All right. So the last point that I'm going to talk about, steps to cultivating healthy and thriving relationships. The last one is huge, and that is model the change you want to see. Be the prototype, be the example. This is huge because often individuals are talking about change, but they themselves are not willing to be changed or change. So what you want to see, model that. All right, talking about cultivating and developing healthy relationships. You got to model that, and if not, you're deceiving yourself. All right, so very quickly, 6 points. Yes, 6 points. Number one, be emotionally vulnerable. Be emotionally vulnerable. Now, as I'm studying this thing, man, and the definition of emotional vulnerability, it's like, wow, man. You know, you can't be vulnerable without putting yourself in harm's way. As a matter of fact, emotional vulnerability is putting yourself out there intentionally or unintentionally, showing a part of yourself that you may feel sensitive about, exposing something that makes you feel seen by others. It is a willingness to take a risk, to show emotions, and provide honest expression despite fears. This is heavy stuff, man. So emotional vulnerability, or being emotionally vulnerable rather. Listen to me. There will be some pain. There will be some potential harm. My God, because the reality is that you're going to show a part of you, perhaps you have been protecting, result of fear, rejection, result of past experiences. So and to establish this platform or this premise, you got to become emotionally vulnerable. I had to discover that with a wife and 3 daughters, of course. As a man, I had to discover and how to become more emotional. You're not so academic and so bottom line. And yes, we as men, we struggle with that. Let's be clear. It's a challenge for us as men. Women are more emotional. God made you all that way. So men, we have to build it in. Then women have to learn how to dial it down. I can't get no help today. All right. Number two, remember, change starts with you. All right. Change starts with you. We're talking about model the change you want to see. All right. Change starts with you. Number three, be the change because they work, they're intertwined. Be the change you want to see in a relationship. And again, um, what do you want out of a relationship? Start doing it. What do you want out of a relationship with your children, with members in the church, your mother, mother-in-law, father-in-law, son, daughter? Be the change. Now, some might argue the point and say, well, I'm doing that. Well, keep doing it. Because here's the reality. The reality is this, is that you got to work on you continuously, perpetually. All right. So be the change you want to see in the relationship. Be that change because the relationship could be a temporary relationship. There might be a season that you're not in a relationship with an individual, family, whatever the case may be. But here's the point I'm making. If you neglect yourself, you're neglecting your change. Number four, be a better partner, friend, son, daughter, brother, sister. Be a better partner. Be a better friend. Again, my point is this. If you suspend your development, if you relinquish the reality that I got to continue to work on me, guess what? You're not going to be a better version of yourself because you're waiting on someone else to change. Well, I feel God with that. I want to quote something that I read this morning, and this is Dr. Harriet Lerner. Well, it says many people stay in bad relationships with the desire to change their partner. And I'll add this change your mother, your father, your brother, sister, folk in the church. But she goes on, she says, in marriage rules, Dr. Harriet Lerner writes, if you don't change your part in a stuck pattern, no change will occur. Change comes from the bottom up. That is, from the person who is in the most pain, who has the least power, or who has lost or compromised too much in the relationship. You talk good this morning, Scott. Change comes from the bottom up. My Lord, from the bottom up. From the person who is in the most pain or who has the least power or who has lost or compromised too much in the relationship. Because listen to me, some people are not going to change. And that's their right. They don't have to change. You can't make your wife change or your husband change or your daughter change or your father change or your friend change. It's not your responsibility. It's not. But guess what? You have to understand something is that I have to change. And what I've discovered in relationships is that when you start changing, it really hides your awareness and the reality that perhaps you compromise too much. Ooh, for the sake of peace, for the sake of get along, for the sake I'm a Christian. I've been taught in scripture to suffer, to endure, and all the above. I got all that. But unfortunately, there are times that we compromise our own well-being trying to get along with folk. So you got to be that change. And I've learned this. That when you start changing, folk are either going to raise their game or remain as they are. And frankly, what they do is that they're not willing to invest at the level that you're investing. That's okay. Because investment really is you investing in yourself. And the individual that you're connected to is a beneficiary of who you are. Well, that's good teaching, man. Number 5, listen without judgment and criticism. You will never develop a place of trust in a relationship if, and we all have to work on this, is if you are listening with judgment and criticism. You can't wait. You got to get it out before the other person can finish talking. You got to keep talking. I need to talk about those who are narcissists. Narcissists. Maybe do some teaching on that. But here, so you listen without judgment and criticism. In other words, you're listening. You're not ready to give your opinion. And I've been guilty of it. I had to learn this. I'm still working on this. As a leader, sometimes we feel like we got to say certain things. And sometimes you got to just listen, not criticize. Number 6, take responsibility. Talk about change. You talk about you want to see change. You want to see change in relationship. Take responsibility. It's all right to apologize. It's all right to acknowledge when you were wrong. It's all right to say, you know what, I missed it. I've learned, and I'm still learning, that sometimes, when people are looking for validation, and you might not fully understand where they're coming from, why they perhaps perceived or interpret what happened to the magnitude of how they interpret it. But there are times you have to say, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I see your point. That's taking responsibility. And listen to me. You're not going to always understand or fully comprehend where they're coming from. Only God can do that. Only God can do it. So as a means of validation, affirmation, sometimes you say, okay, I got it. I understand. I'm sorry. You move on. You don't fight. You say, okay. Even in your mind, you know it. Well, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean this. That was not my purpose. There are times you go, say, okay. There are times you say, I take responsibility. That's real talk with the bishop, y'all. All right, listen, y'all get the word out. Let's share. We're talking about change, man. We got to fix our relationships. And here's the reality. You can't fix other folk, but you can fix you by the grace of God and by God's help. He says, faith without works is dead. You got to put the work in. Relationships requires work. Work. Marriage is work. Raising children is work. It's work, man. It's work. When you're working with folk with all kind of personalities and all kind of dispositions and hang-ups and emotional instability, perhaps mental illness. I don't know. It's a conglomerate of things going on. And what you don't want to do is allow yourself to be unhealthy because someone else is unhealthy. Y'all be blessed. Get the word out.